You know, being Canadian, it's kind of strange at times. Growing up, you learn that Canada is obviously a part of some major historical global events, but also kind of separated from them. Take, for instance, our involvement in the Underground Railroad. We basically pat ourselves on the back for being there. See, and that's what you need to know about Canada. We may seem humble, but we will take credit for something that's great, even if it's just remotely Canadian. The Raps winning the championship, Andrescu winning the US Open. Okay, maybe not anything Canadian. Welcome to Real School, the film teacher that believes the children are our future because God knows the old people have doomed us all. I'm your host, Michael Wynne Johnson, and today I will be reviewing Harriet. There are some really important things to note about this film. At TIFF, festival director Cameron Bailey addressed the crowd and said that this is actually the first and only major studio production when it comes to a Harriet Tubman film. Before this, it was just made-for-TV movies. So this brings up an interesting question. Is a film significant simply because its story is important? The answer is emphatically now. Before we get into any of this, we really should talk about the incandescent Cynthia Erivo, who I just discovered last year at TIFF, and her role in Widows. Now, while Widows wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, the following month with the release of Bad Times at the El Royale, she stole the show, stole my heart, and truly impressed me in terms of her skill set as an actress and performer. Harriet is a very different film from anything I've seen Erivo in thus far. It's different in a lot of respects, and unfortunately none of those respects are all that strong. Take, for instance, the script. It really just kind of goes through the motions, unveiling Tubman's history slowly, one note by made-for-TV note. Okay, so production values aren't that great. But to go back to that original question, can the film overcome the budget? Well, yeah, sure, it could, but in this specific instance, once again, it's network TV and budget aside. Yes, as mentioned before, it just kind of unveils the story slowly, patiently, sometimes painfully, but there was a little bit of flair that they tried to introduce into this story, and that was that Harriet actually has psychic visions, premonitions where she believes she's talking to God. Granted, in doing some research, there is historical basis to this. She did actually get a head injury when she was a child, and she had visions and seizures as a result, and often people thought she was communing with God. However, the way that was presented in this film really didn't fit the tone of the film. So either they needed to bump up the story and a little bit more excitement in that respect, or they needed to tone down the whole vision thing. My old school real students who have been around a while, who have seen my Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter review, will remember that I said it's my favorite concept since Thomas Edison Unicorn Enthusiast. Well, now we have something akin to Rosa Parks' Leprechaun detective. Now, there are two groups of people when it comes to that joke, and yes, it was a joke. There are people who hear that and go, I would watch that in a heartbeat. I might be one of them. There are also people out there who might actually take offense at that because you're belittling the accomplishments of a historical and great figure in American history. Does that mean Parks was a leprechaun who was also a detective, or a detective who had only worked for leprechauns? The point is that latter group of people has every justification to be offended if a movie like Rosa Parks' Leprechaun Detective came out. Now, you might think that this is just hyperbolic comparison, but the fact is, Harriet could have easily been named Harriet Tubman Psychic Avenger, and it would have fit. So does that change things? Can you look past this bizarrely supernatural element? No. I'm sorry, but the answer is no. Because at the heart of things, Harriet is just a film that doesn't take itself seriously enough, which is kind of shocking considering the representation of actors of color and black filmmakers creating and putting this film out there. They realized that this is a very important story to tell, and yet Erivo seemed to be the only one to take it seriously. That's why I said she did her best. The words she was given, the script, it just didn't have enough gravitas. I will also say that there was a young woman sitting beside me who audibly reacted to this film. There are several scenes where Tubman has speeches about her vision of the future where equality reigns, and this woman was cheering out loud. And really, how can you argue with that kind of connection? Of course I can. I can't take anything away from that young woman who felt a connection to this film on a much deeper level. I wouldn't dare try to touch that. That's why this story is important. That's why this film got made. But I just wish it got made a little better. That's the only thing I can really judge this film on, how it's presented as a story, how it's presented as a film, and the tone of the piece, which I feel was a burn it. Poll question, what do you think? Did she only work for leprechauns, or was she a leprechaun that was also a detective? As always, leave your answers in the comments section below. Be sure to subscribe to Real School and follow my TIFF playlist for some amazing reviews of huge up-and-coming fall releases. But until then, and until next time, school's out. Hey Real students, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to Real School, click that round Real School logo right beside me. Also click that damn notification bell so you're aware of all of Real School's new content. You can follow me on Twitter, and of course, if you get anything out of Real School, you can always give a little back. Just click the link in the description below or the button down there, and you can become part of my Patreon team.